Welcome to episode 4 of SAU 53's video series, all about competency-based education. This episode will focus on competency recovery and what happens when students are unable to demonstrate what they know and can do. We will look at different models of recovery and focus on the responsibilities of the student to provide evidence of readiness to take or retake an assessment. We will also address the notion of insufficient evidence. Now let's face it, no matter how old you are, whether you're a kid or an adult, there are always times where we'd rather be doing something relaxing or more fun than our work. Fun and relaxing means different things to different people, whether that be going to the beach and dipping your toes in the sand, or taking a hike in the woods, going swimming, or a variety of things. As tough as this may be to swallow, we only get time to relax in that downtime and time to do fun things by earning it. We need to work hard, get done with the things that we're responsible for in order to earn that time. So you may be wondering, how does any of this have to do with competency-based education? The answer is quite simple. With a competency-based education system, students have the ability to show what they know and can do, and not worry about the time it takes in order to show or demonstrate what they've learned. When a student successfully demonstrates what they know and can do, they can quickly move on and get into deeper and more rigorous tasks. The real question we should be asking is, how do we support the student who has not yet demonstrated their ability to learn? One thing I've learned in my 15 years as an educator is that when students don't demonstrate learning, they fall into one of two categories: students who can't and students who won't. Regardless of the reason a student hasn't demonstrated competence, it is still our responsibility as educators to help students succeed. For the category of students who can't, we firmly believe in a competency-based system that it's just a matter of time, that the student can't do it yet, but that through intervention, through remediation, and through reteaching strategies, we will be able to support them in their endeavors to learn. Recovery options for this student would typically be things in the school, such as extra help after school, some sort of a pull-out remediation from another teacher or a specialist. Or it might be extra work, because remember, the point is that we as teachers demand evidence of student learning. So that student, through these reteaching strategies, needs to show that they have now gotten the material. This can go on and on throughout the course of a year, depending on the competency and depending on what the student's needs are. Not only do such opportunities provide evidence of learning, but think about the level of confidence that students can build as they consistently show their growth and their ability to do what it is they've been asked to do. In the case of students who won't, oftentimes referred to as reluctant learners, remediation strategies may be different. Recovery options may be limited to things like summer school or reassessment. Now you may be sitting here thinking, geez, that sounds just like the traditional model. However, a competency-based systems recovery model is drastically different. Think about the absurdity of the next two situations that I'm going to describe that are very typical in a traditional system. First, imagine a student who chooses not to do their work. Perhaps they didn't study, or they simply decided that they weren't going to do what they were asked to do. Traditionally, this student would be given some sort of a grade, and then they'd be given a chance to do makeup work, and they would get some sort of a modified grade. The fact of the matter is, this isn't evident of what they know and can do. It's simply a score based on their time or their behavior. Situation number 2 involves a student who decides not to do their work for an entire unit of study, or perhaps a semester or a year. This student would traditionally go to summer school. And think about this. We say that in 20 or so days of summer school, a student can make up an entire year's worth of work, or a semester's worth of work. That just doesn't add up. In a competency-based system, these two situations can be remedied, and in a way that makes sense. To address situation number 1, all of our schools will have work-study practices. That's a way to separate grades from behavior. We'll discuss that more in our next video. Now think about situation number 2. Imagine a summer school that was targeted to those areas, those competencies and performance indicators where an individual student couldn't or didn't achieve. Imagine a student only had to spend a week or 2 on 1 or 2 competencies, rather than 4 weeks on an entire course. But perhaps the biggest area that causes the most concern or confusion when it comes to recovery is whose responsibility is it? Let me be very clear. It is the responsibility of the student to provide evidence that they are learning. If they need to do recovery, it needs to be on time, in accordance with a plan that they make with a teacher. And throughout any recovery contract period, they need to be showing consistent evidence that they are doing the work needed in order to learn. We hope this episode provided valuable insight into how competence can be recovered. We cannot stress enough that while a student may have multiple opportunities to demonstrate competence and retake assessments, it is their responsibility to demonstrate readiness by providing the evidence that a teacher needs in order to evaluate them accurately. In the next episode, we will look at another important aspect of competency-based education, the notion that behavior is calculated separately from academics. We will look at examples of work-study practices that measure critical 21st century skills that are not academic in nature.